What is happening, Honey Badger Nation, man? Welcome to episode 194 of Expert Mentors Live. Got my man, Mr. DJ, in the house. What's happening?
What's up, John? How you doing?
Doing good, brother, man. I appreciate you making the time and jumping in. And
absolutely,
I know, really, the intent and the goal of our Expert Mentors series is to just tap into, the horsepower of the Honey Badger Nation and bring real world market activities, thoughts, processes, things that can really help agents in the Honey Badger Nation to, navigate their way through whatever the market is throwing at them. And I was excited, to have you on because of the skill set that you've been able to, develop. And I think it's, foundational for anybody. And no matter what you do, even as, marketing is so, at the forefront, you still got to have a conversation with someone. And, I think something that, unique ability and skill set you bring to the table and able to really share is that. And I know we'll get into that, in detail for everybody listening in, and then also a place that they could dive a little bit deeper with you on that specific skill set and training that I believe all agents need to have. But before we jump in, man, I'd love for you to just kind of give a little background, share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you, John. So I guess real quick history. So been working with Mr. Matt Durbin now, better part of 20 plus years, and started in the mortgage side of things, and rode that wave, the 2007, 2008 time. So very humbling time frame, but taught us a lot. And, fast forwarding now, about 5 years ago, kind of got the band back together and have grown a pretty large team. We were fortunate last year to be number one by volume in the state of Pennsylvania with the EXP Realty. So we're proud of that, and definitely not letting our foot off the gas. Got a lot of plans for a lot more growth here in the future. And, that pandemic was a bit unique because something we never had planned for or saw. And after pushing through that, I'd say times now with this shift, something we've been talking to our agents about actually for the better part of a year plus, saying, it's not going to stay this good forever, right? So the lessons we learned back in 07, 08 and seeing some different things now, I feel like we're more prepared than ever. And I'll tell you something you said, I know another agent told you it, but it's resonated when you said it's the season of skill. I've thought about that deeply, and that's where we're focused really heavy right now with, getting our agents trained up and ready to thrive in this market shift. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that was borrowed from, Bobby and Gil down in Orlando, the Alliance. And, it just really really resonated. And everybody I've talked to about it, they're like, yes, right. Especially those that have, ridden through, a market prior to the last 3 years and getting back into the fundamentals. And, it's just like, even getting back to, the conversation on listing appointments to where you talk about the market data and you talk about, plan B, what happens if it doesn't sell? And agents are like, what? You have that conversation? And you're like, yes, you do. You have it on the front end. And it's definitely loving that theme, the summer of skill, not to be confused with the summer of George.
Right.
So, for you, really, that has, you look at your, your career and you look at the ability to get in and articulate your value over the phone. I mean, for you, where was that skill set, kind of developed and then, sharpened to, be able to get to this point and utilize it within real estate?
Yeah, so it's actually 5 years ago when I came back here to Pittsburgh, Matt was already doing well, and there wasn't a team. It was just him. He was doing well, and he knew I was always pretty good on the phone and in person. So he said, I want you to start cold calling expireds. And, at first I failed a lot, but I was just driven to learn and craft the skill. So, it started with memorizing. I think the first script was like a Tom Ferry script, getting comfortable with that. And then I was watching YouTube videos like crazy. Everything I could just take in for other people doing it at a higher level, and then fortunately we met you guys, right? So being fortunate to coach with you, and I was on some earlier calls with Jay, just on like the listing presentation, the outbound expired part, and knowing that was a big foundational part for your guys' business. It was just everyone I talked to doing anything at a high level had a culture, I would say, of prospecting. Right. So that was the one thing I just realized, whether, I look at like Tina Call's group and Greg Harrelson down in Myrtle, like all those bigger teams, they just always had that culture. And since it naturally has kind of fit my skill set, it was something I got excited about. And, I started tracking numbers. So it was bad at first. I think it was like, I'd get one appointment for every 45 contacts. And then it was, well, how do I get to, 1 to 20 and 1 to 10? Now I'm pretty much 1 for 5. So it's like, I'm always pushing to still improve that, always. Like, I think I can always get better. And, that comes in now with some of the Coach Burt, like the way he speaks and just articulates, like there's always those different levels to get better. So more than ever now, I think that is the primary goal, is just to keep sharpening the axe.
And, let's go right to the overarching, piece of it. And when you look at kind of that outbound function of any organization, and typically you usually default back to effort and skill, and then what you also have to take into consideration and realize is data and tools, right? So there's four key buckets that you've got to look at when your outbound efforts. But I believe an overarching kind of theme, and then maybe let's dive into each 4 of those buckets, and some best practices and things, how to optimize each 4 of those pillars. Mm-hmm. But I believe the overarching thing is the mindset and the reluctancy and the fear, and I become paralyzed. So from a mindset perspective, like where do you go? What's helped you? And then, coaching and leading, these other agents, like how do you help them, mentally get okay with it, overcome that reluctancy? What's been that process for you?
That's a great point. So for me, it stems back from being in sales, my entire life. Folks saying everything I do every day is to help these clients, right? Whether it's my agents, my clients, and I am very confident that every call I make is to help them. So knowing that if I feel rejection or it's a bad call, or, we all have it, right? It doesn't slow me down. I don't take it personal, because I know that my mission is A, to help them, and B, I'm confident that I'm one of the best to do that. And that is something where I think a lot of folks, as you said, they don't call for fear of rejection, or maybe fear that they're not. But when you come from a mindset of helping others and just being grateful for that, I think that for me, it overpowers fear, right? So early on, I got rid of the fear fast. Just knowing I can call someone today and it can be the worst call ever, and I can call them back tomorrow, same call, same beginning. They don't even remember talking to me. And then I'm setting a listing appointment. I'm going there Friday, and now they're a client for life. So the follow-up part is huge too, right? A lot of us give up that first call, you get rejected. But if it's a good listing, they're motivated. I keep calling, and I'm going to keep going until I get that appointment. And then it's showcasing more value in a proven, repeatable system with our listing presentation.
Does it fall back to a belief in your skill set that you truly can help them? Is that what you kind of default back to?
Always. I would say the foundation to overcome fear mentally for me is knowing every call, my intention is to help, and that I can help, that I can make a difference.
What do you tell these new agents coming in that haven't, developed that skill set yet to to start to develop that belief?
So we usually we'll practice about a week on the script. I say kind of just like an actor, actress can memorize a movie script. I said, the good news, this is way easier, right? It's really one piece of paper, because you break down a call, you got the open, all the part you get usually in trouble are the objections, which there's quite a few. And then you have your close. So I start them with a solid open that'll, and I know different in markets like Pittsburgh, we're a little fast moving. Maybe folks out west are a little more relaxed, or down south. But I know in Pittsburgh, you have 3 seconds, right? You have 3 seconds or they're hanging up. So you got to make sure the open's good. So we'll practice the scripts for about a week, and then we'll go heavy into role play together. And I think that helps to overcome the fear. A lot of times I've heard it's more fearful to do in front of us because you're a little more intimidated versus an actual stranger. But, that practice then gets them to the point where they feel some confidence. And I think there's nothing better than a new agent getting that first appointment, that feeling of I did it. And then when you get your first listing and then sold, that's the key. Once you know it's possible and you can do it, then it's a matter of just being disciplined to continue to do that daily. And I say discipline, right? Because it's not motivation, because we're all motivated, but to keep doing it, that's the hardest part, is the consistency.
Yeah. And very few people are wired to that just love to get on the phones. So, it does take that discipline to those activities. And is it for you just kind of, even the days you don't feel like it, as long as you just kind of get going with it, then you're able to just keep it moving?
You nailed it. Either the first F off or the first great call, whatever it is. I remember it's like going out on the football field. You always have those little jitters before the kickoff, right? But whatever happened on kickoff, as soon as you got hit the first time, it's all right, let's roll. So for me, it's just, it really is a muscle. Once you start doing it, and there's no better feeling when you're having a good day. And that's when you said about mindset. If you take what's going on in your personal life into the call, you're going to have a bad day on the phone, because people feel that, right? So if you start your day right, work out, you're in a positive mindset, and you can feel the enthusiasm, like Coach Burt was saying, getting back old school, a lot of us just aren't enthusiastic anymore, right? And that starts inside. So I've won so many listings by them saying, you know what, really don't care what you're saying right now. You just seem like a go-getter. Let's meet. And then I get it. And you remind me of my son or someone I coached or something like that. So the enthusiasm piece is huge, especially when you're newer, getting more skilled, because you'll win just on being enthusiastic. And a lot of times younger agents say, well, what do? I don't have the track record. How are you going to compete against other big agents? We were all there. All of us were at 1 or 0, right? For me, it was nobody will work harder. They might have 50 listings. You're my priority. I'm going to work my ass off in every aspect to get top dollar, take stress off. You get it sold in the quickest amount of time. So, and that's confidence too, right? So I think most of it is just the confidence and belief in yourself.
So when we look at, getting that momentum, getting going, we talked on a couple of things there, right? Of our 4 buckets, you kind of hit on effort and skill, but let's talk about effort first. Where do you see the minimum viable effort to get the result you want? So how do you go about determining the right amount of effort that you have to put in for this to be, to really produce the results that you're looking for?
At the beginning, I'll just say it's tough, right? Because when you're not as skilled, it is way more effort and time. So for me, it was 3 to 4 hours minimum. Sometimes I'd be calling 5 hours. I mean, if when I was newer, I didn't have the appointment. So it was like,
what else would you do?
Right. What else am I? And it was the highest ROI. If that's the other thing, as now a team leader, a business owner, it is the highest dollar producing activity, but it's more effort driven. But what I always loved about it, with all these lead potentials out there, every expired said, I really want to sell my house. I just don't believe in agents. So it's overcoming that. And every FSBO saying, hey, I really want to sell my house. So then it's just a commission conversation usually, right? So at first, to your point, effort is going to be greater, but that's why tracking your numbers is key, because that got me more excited. As I knew I was 50 to 1, 40 to 1, 30 to 1, and you could see the progression of skill. Now it's like, all right, well, if I can still call for 3 hours, instead of setting 1 appointment, I'm doing 3. And if you're doing 3, 4 in a day sometimes, think about that over a week. And then even if your conversion's 75%, and then another 75% that you're winning, you're selling a lot of houses.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit about the measurement and, what you feel is like, cause you can over measure everything. Right. And so like, what do you pay attention to as kind of the most critical numbers from a measurement standpoint to really hone in and pay attention to?
Sure. So I use a dialer. So I didn't have to really keep track of time. I use Mojo currently, but for those folks that don't want to do that type of dialer, Vulcan 7, for example, or Red X, where we get the data, have a dialer. So the dialer is going to track, we'll call it call time. So that's just time on the phone. And then how to be more efficient with the calls. I try to make sure a good call was 10 minutes or less, and you want to be on and off the phone as quick as you can for volume. So call time, number of contacts made is huge. And I would count a contact as like, say I called you, John, and as soon as you picked up, you're like, F you, I'm not talking today. That's a contact. So to be strict to yourself and honest, like, all right. And I would just use a paper like 1, 2, 3, right? So it'd be dial, number of dials, number of contacts made, number of appointments set, talk time, and dial time. So main things I was looking for were how many contacts did I talk to and how many appointments did I set? Those are, I would say, those are the two key. And then if you're getting, let's say it's one contact out of, one appointment for 50 contacts, you have to improve your skill on what you're saying. Or if you're calling a ton, and you're just not getting the contacts, then it's a data problem, right? So that's how you can analyze where your issues are. Is it a data issue or is it a skill issue?
Right. Yeah, I love that. Right. Be able to have that measurement and let the data tell what's the data telling us. And that's where, I feel a lot of agents resist that measurement piece. And it's like, guys, right? Like the data tells the story and you don't have to guess. And really you have to, buy into why it's so important that why we measure. So we know precisely where to spend our time to improve. And I think that improvement then comes back around, especially on the skill side of things. So to develop the skills, and I know you talked a little bit about, scripting, role playing, but let's kind of what does that look like from the ideal skill that we need to develop over the phone, and what is the ideal script kind of flow process really need to look like to optimize success?
So at the beginning, my recommendation is, now I've kind of formed my own script. I've taken the best of what I've learned from, I think pretty much everyone's given me their script, right? So for me, it was optimizing an open, having a solid few answers for every objection, which the good news is sellers aren't in any course that says how to trick agents further. It's the same stuff. Right? Yes. So it's always the same objections. So once you get real comfortable being able to talk confidently through that, and then find the close, that's, if you've gotten through that far, that's just setting the appointment. Like I always say, the call is just to set the appointment. You're not trying to boil the ocean on the first call. It's for them to have enough confidence to meet with you knowing this is the answer I'm looking for. Steps involved right now, I would take as many scripts as I can, but I'd start with, again, Tina Call was kind enough to share hers many years ago. She has a great script book. So I kind of really internalized that. So for me, it was memorization, internalization. That's nothing more than I was doing 20 minutes a day, twice a day. In about 2 weeks, I had them memorized. Then it's how to not sound like a robot. Now the internalization is, okay, well, now I know what to say. How do I say it in my words? DJ's way of talking, right? Because we're all a little bit different, right? And then from there, the continual part of learning and skill, which, I learn by seeing and hearing. Other people are readers. Me watching others do it on YouTube helped me tremendously. Hearing them on calls, hearing the objections. So I would just spend hours. I mean, any free time I had, I'm just on YouTube in the car. So once you get that nailed down, I say it's time to jump in the pool. Because a lot of people have reluctance and say, I'm not ready yet. There's no way to get ready other than live fire. Start making the calls, right? So then when you're in the calls and then with the training on the role play, that consistent role play training is always that confidence booster, or as Coach Burt says, the prey drive, igniting that you're doing good, you can do this. just keep making the calls and knowing that we all have tough days. You know, there's days you might make a ton of calls and it's all, you didn't get one appointment. There's a lot of rejection. The next day, and I've seen it time and time again, you set 3 or 4 appointments. It's like, wow, this really does work. That's where the discipline part must be there. And I wouldn't say to a new agent, it has to be a certain amount of hours because that can feel overwhelming. Now we just say 20 contacts.
Yeah.
Start with trying to make 20 contacts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You know, I want to get into presentation in just a second. And I know, you know, Alex, this is one of the things that Alex did and he still does is that, you know, if he gets a new script, he'll have it, but he'll handwrite it out. And that way, you know, just the science behind handwriting it allows you to internalize it. And then also one of the most important things, and this goes back to professional sports, why they record everything and then they go back and watch film, is being able to see. And one of Jay's biggest takeaways from his early coaching days was that he was on with his coach and he was like, man, hey, these scripts suck. And the coach said, really? Are you using the script word for word? And he's like, yeah, I'm using it word for word. And he's like, okay, well, do me a favor. I want you to record, you know, the next 3 or 4 calls, and then I want you to send it to me. And now keep in mind, this is like the old tape recorder days, plugged into your phone, cassette tape. Then you got to pull this cassette tape out and then, you know, snail mail it. Obviously there's better and faster ways these days. And so got it. On his next coaching call, the coach played it. He said, Jay, I want you to follow through with the script and I want you to listen to the call. And of course he wasn't following the script. He started following the script and he started having success. And, you know, if you've gone through, for anybody that's gone through Jordan Belfort's straight line persuasion course, one of Jordan's big, like non-negotiables is that no matter how skilled you become, you always have a script in front of you. And it's because more so, and you know, I've talked to a lot of agents that are really, really skilled. And Alex even says this, and he's like, he goes, I know it backwards and forwards. He goes, but sometimes I get into the conversation, but it keeps me on point. Boom, to the next point, to the next point. Because if you understand the straight line persuasion process, is that they're going to get you off of the line. And your job is to get them back on the line and keep progressing to the desired outcome, which is setting a qualified appointment. And, you know, wherever you guys, it doesn't matter. Be a collector of scripts if you want. If you're looking to start, you guys are honey badgers. You have NAEA, CHSA, CHBA access. There is a script book there. Like, it was funny. I had an agent, she hadn't been calling for sell by owners. And I was like, the first sell by owner script, NAEA, just use it and start calling for sell by owners. She started calling it and she followed it. I said, just follow it to the T. Don't change it. Don't entrepreneur it. And she started setting appointments. She goes, it's so smooth. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, just if you guys are looking for some place to get the scripting, the NAEA script book, you guys all as honey badgers have access to it. Get it, use it, internalize it, right? Go through the best practices, handwrite it out, record yourself, go back and listen to it. And it really is powerful. So our philosophy has always been set the appointment, qualify the appointment. Mm-hmm. For you, do you guys follow that method as well?
Yes, that's exactly it. So as quick as you can set, and then once it's set, now you're going back to qualify. And the number one thing in that qualification for me is motivation. How high is their motivation and what is it? Because that's the key, right? Everything is motivation. So that's exactly how we do it. And then from there, we do follow to a T the menu, right? So the proven repeatable system, I still bring that with me. Still, I mean, it's still the same look like, hey, what is this guy bringing in? It works because the same way, to your point, you're following a very systematic with the 7 laws, the beginning kind of, starts the conversation. But when they see the 7 laws, and the reason that's so valuable for me, value. They all say, I've never seen anything else like this. No one's presented like this. And always the question is, wow, like how much is this going to cost? That in turn then helps you much easier when you look at commission. Like, well, that's amazing. Like, you've done it well when that's not even a question. Like you guys always say, right? Someone asking commission or hitting you on price, it's an absence of value. So if you show them how much value, and now, again, why this shift is so exciting, there's a lot of agents that are going to be able to get more. Because more than ever, the valuable and the skilled agents, we're going to rise up, right? Because for the last 3 years, everyone's like, I don't need anybody. I could sell my house in a day. I got 30 offers. I got this. Very quickly, that has changed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Before we get into kind of more on the presentation, on those counseling interviews, everything's there for a reason. And it's there because we learned we would get hit with certain things walking in the door. And so every question is intentional. And so, DJ shared some metrics to pay attention to on the front end of, contacts, appointments set. Well, you're also going to then have to start paying attention to appointments kept. And part of that seller counseling interview and why you set the appointment and qualify the appointment is that it gives you an opportunity to get them talking about their home, about their experience, about what they're trying to accomplish. And like what you said, uncover true motivation. And then it does have a few questions there at the end of the interview. And it's really promising that, hey, we're going to be putting in some work for preparing for this appointment. We just ask, right? So one of the questions on there is, opportunity. If we're meeting with the seller and they're interviewing other agents, we get the opportunity to come in last. But then we also ask for permission that if anything changes, they let us know, right? That we want to, we're going to put a lot of work. We just ask that they do everything to keep the appointment. Can you make me a promise? And right, when you ask that question, most people that say, yes, I will make a promise, they won't break the promise. And so there's just a couple key lines in there for a reason, guys, that you gotta make sure don't skip. Wally and I would always joke, the one question you don't ask is the question you're going to get hit with when you get face-to-face, right? Are all decision makers going to be present? How many times have you showed up and the true decision maker is not present?
That's a big one.
It's a big one, right? So just make sure you're following the process, getting to the appointment. Now, another metric, hey, I'm getting face-to-face, but I'm not winning business. Where do you go from a skill and training with your agents on how to best, understand this presentation, this rapport? Because there's a couple key pieces here that are really critical when you do get face-to-face.
So that's huge. That's the second, we'll call it, right? So the calls are step one. The presentation is huge. So for me, it's so old, but I still watch it. Jay did that. I think Wally, he did it with Wally. It might be 10 years old, 12 years old when Jay does that live presentation and he goes through the whole thing. But I'll say this to anybody that hasn't done it. Getting certified, certified selling advisor and the buyer's advisor, I've done it twice now. And I definitely am going to keep doing it. Like for as good as you can be, every time I go, I get more nuggets. So, I mean, the system you guys developed is so rock solid. And when followed, truly it's proven, it's repeatable, and anybody can have success. So I follow that. And then we have separate training for our team just on the listing presentation. And I mean, from the point of like, as soon as we get out of the car, what are we saying, how early you are, during a walkthrough, we're just taking.
What are some of those best practices? Because, I think it's getting into a situation with agents. They're going to get back to competing. They're going to get back to, all the details that really matter. And, just being able to show up and look at my marketing, look at my smile. We're going to put the sign in the yard. I'm going to get you this amount of money. That's not going to work. And so you might be able to get the listing, yet your probability of selling it's not going to be in your favor. So, yeah, talk to us a little bit about kind of that process that once the appointment's set, you qualified it, it's good to go, boom. What then happens next?
So here's some key, very specific takeaways. So number one, I'm always 5 minutes early. I don't want to be too early. I never want to be late, right? Soon as I go to that door, I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic, I'm happy. Not overly like weird, just right, happy to be there. First thing I always ask, would you like me to take my shoes off? I just start with one polite gesture. Usually like, no, it's okay. Or if they want, I've seen Aiden get thrown out because they said, well, you don't live in a barn. Like, why wouldn't you ask? So just a minor thing I ask. Then I say, all right, well, who wants to give me the grand tour? Here's where you say about who's the decision maker.
Yep.
You find out very quickly. So I asked that question for that reason. During the grand tour, I build rapport. So that's one thing that I think I'm pretty good at. I always try to do. I'm not talking details. I'm not saying what to do with the house, the paint, none of that. I'm listening. I'm building rapport. And I want them to share, tell me some of the awesome things about the house, what you've done, why everyone's proud of their home. They want to share that with you.
Right.
Let them talk. I don't say a word. And when the tour is over, I walk to where I want to sit. Usually that's going to be a dining room table. I lead them. So then I say, well, this is awesome. Now I'd love to share with you the data and our system and why I'm so confident I can get you top dollar in this market. For me personally, and we do use, like, now's a good time, John, like absorption analysis is going to come back for those agents that aren't aware of it. We're training on that as well. So knowing your data is huge, right? So I'll have what's sold. We call that the rear view mirror. What's active is what I'm looking at. And now with market changes, what's the absorption rate look like? Because our supply has increased quickly and by quite a bit. So when I go through the data, and here's something for all agents. They always say, a lot of times they'll hold a gun to your head and say, so what's my house worth? Right? Well, that's something we're going to get into. And I'm excited you asked me that because we're going to talk together about this. Well, no, you're the expert. I'm sure you have the number. Yeah, I have a good idea of the range, but this is why, now that I'm here in person, I want to share with you. Don't ever say the number. You want to get thrown out of a listing, lose. As soon as you answer, if that was the number they were thinking, you're out. Done. You're dead, right? So for me, it's all data driven. I have my solds, and I say, oftentimes the solds, that's kind of more for a bank with their appraisal look at. Here's what's active. What's more important, you said you want to sell your house in 30 days, there's 6 months of inventory in some markets. So this is where all this data matters, because it all goes back in line with, is time more important as money? So once we've gone through that, for me, it's always asking questions. And I know you guys did the same. Where would you rank your house on a scale of 1 to 10? Compared to this, keep asking those questions, right? And then they're going to give you the number. So one thing I jumped around a little bit. When I sit down, my very first thing is the menu. So I go through that first. And after that value is proven, then I go to the comparable information, the active, and then our absorption analysis. And then once that's done, again, when you've done a good job, and then I simply ask, what you can feel. I mean, that's a feeling. I'm excited to get this property in the market. I can move quick. I'm sure you feel the same way. Are you ready to get started? I just directly ask them. And I always have a blank listing contract with me.
Yes.
Always, because if they're ready now, I'm getting something signed before I walk out the door. And my goal,
yep,
that's it, right? And my goal is to have something signed where I can always DocuSign stuff later. But at that point, again, commission is typically not a discussion. So that flow and that rhythm is, for me now, like secondhand. It's exact the same way every time. And I'll tell you this, I've learned the hard way. You go in there sometimes overconfident, for example, in referrals, and I won't do the menu as well. And I've lost some of those, saying, seemed like a good guy, but didn't get into the details as much. And I'm like, you know what? Damn it. I should have stuck to exactly like you said about the Jay example when he said, well, I'm saying exactly what I can. I don't skip those steps. Like, those steps are all there for a reason.
Yeah.
So, hopefully those are some very specific. Oh, and one other thing I think is huge. Setting expectations right now is very important. The expectation for, let's look at the last 2.5 years, where every house sells, 35 offers. My sellers still this week, I've only had house on the market for 4 days. Like, what's happening? Where's the offers? We should have had 20. I'm like, no, we talked about this. Yeah. I said that we are in a time it's price and condition. We're priced right. Your house is the right condition. It's going to sell. But I mentioned we're going to need some more time. Look at the data. We're getting views. We're getting showings. It's okay. So keeping them calm more than ever and setting that expectation is huge.
Yeah. I think what, even, where we developed CHS and CHBA was out of necessity, that we needed to create something duplicatable. And it was what allowed us to get Jay out of production. It took us 3 times for that to happen, is because, it was a couple things. It was one, having a presentation that wasn't about the Me Monster presentation. Look at my awards, look at all my homes, look at all of this. That shit don't matter. And what's even more important is when you're trying to say that and you're not him. And so we needed something duplicatable. And then we understood, a better financial model was the 2 things that allowed us to get him out of production. And way we look at that, right? And even to your question, hey, where does it need to be priced? And so, on the presentation is the price elasticity, home sell at the top of the market, middle market, or the bottom of the market, really depending upon, how we choose to proactively manage the 115 different variables in the home selling process. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really going to depend based upon your goals, right? What you're wanting to accomplish, what's most important to you, your time frames, where we need to be, and then also the level of investment that you're able to make into proactively managing these variables will determine if it's going to sell at the top, the middle, or the bottom. And so as we go through this process, that'll help uncover, and then we can, land where we need to position your home in the market. So that's how we would always just kind of articulate with the presentation and the placemat. And it's one of those things, right? You go back to skill and time. And like, Deej, I haven't given that presentation since 2012. And it's just once you develop that, right? And you understand that you have a process, and that's the most important thing, right? You're not winging it, shooting from the hip. You've got a real process that you follow. And I think that's what a lot of agents need to understand, is that, there's not a perfect linear path, but there is a path that you need to follow. And you said something, right? Skipping steps. And we used to have it all over. It's always on my boards. And it was like, skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. And what's happened for agents over the last 2-3 years is that they've skipped steps and they feel like it's been faster, yet it's going to catch up with you at some point, sometime.
Yep.
And, being able to get to that truth, being able to get to those facts, and where do I need to go deeper is going to be absolutely critical. So we have our process. We like to say, give that presentation and like, don't scare them away. Hey, it's going to take X amount of hours for you to master this. We just say, hey, you need to give that presentation 20 to 25 times. If you can do that to where you're not getting objections, then you've got it. Mm-hmm. Because the presentation was built to proactively overcome any objection that a seller may say to you if you just follow it. And so if you're looking for an indicator, hey, have you given the presentation 20, 25 times, and are you getting objections? If you've given it about that many times, you're not getting objections, you're good. You've got it.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add kind of on the presentation and what's really important to think about?
No, I think you hit all the points. The only thing I wanted to say also, just before I forget, that's important, that's new or should be, happening more than ever. I used to do follow-up Fridays, which would be following up with every client. Like, things have moved so fast, we've lost sense to follow up, right? And on Mondays, I'd touch base with every listing, and those would be the price reduction calls, right? So we say that, and somebody like, a what call? Yeah, right. So it's like getting back into these older habits of every Monday, I would go through the whole list, and they'd be very quick. Quick calls, and they expected them. We had a communication guarantee. a part of my listing presentation, like in the past, was, if we don't communicate effectively and often, you fire us, no questions asked. So, because a lot of the objections, like on expireds, we heard from a lot of the listings was, hey, this agent promised me the world, but I haven't heard from them for 3 weeks now, so we just fired them. So that's a big one. A small thing to do, again, on the consistency, was follow up Fridays, and then Monday, every single one of, if for us it was 20 showings or 2 weeks. If we're at that point and there's no offers, we're reducing price. I say that up front in my listing presentation now. And when we make that call, there's that expectation, right? Because in that graph where you have as soon as you list, you're at the top and then you start going down, the only way to get that kind of going back up is that. So getting comfortable with that, that's going to be new for a lot of agents that aren't going to be all feeling that good when they have to call someone and say, hey, we got to drop 10 to 15,000 based on you telling me we needed to be under contract within 30 days. We've had X amount of showings. We're getting good feedback. It's price. It's always price and condition.
Yeah. I would just caution everybody out listening to this. Don't ever say price reduction. Don't ever say it. Our lingo is, hey, we need to talk about how we need to reposition your home in the market.
That's a great
reposition call. Do we need to reposition some photos, right? So think about it. If, from a seasonality change that, say it's winter and you got snow and here we are coming into spring and we still have the home on the market. We need to refresh. We need to reposition your home. And, a lot of that can be done based upon feedback. Hey, we need to change this. So it's a reposition. Do we need to have a reposition conversation? And don't ever say price reduction, because they'll negative connotation to that.
That's true.
So getting back to the fundamentals, the communication, being able to, one thing, just be careful, especially if you have a team or you have an assistant, don't ever commit that you personally will make the call back. Just say, hey, our team will be communicating with you on a weekly basis, because as you continue to grow, there's going to be days that you're not going to be able to make those calls, but if you have an assistant or a listing manager, they can make those calls. So don't ever pigeonhole yourself into saying, I am going to do that. And I think that's just another leadership point for everybody listening in. If you can get away from using the word I, eliminate that from your vocabulary. The only time you need to use I is when you're taking ownership for something that you dropped the ball on. Everything else is us, we, our team. And that just helps you as a leader, but it also kind of sets the stage when you're talking to clients about, hey, our team is going to get you this way. And then if they ever give you the pushback on, well, I only want you doing that, and say, what I always like tying it back is if you know their profession, right? Say they're a dentist. You say, can I ask you a question? They're going to say, well, yeah, of course. Do you check people into your dental practice? Right? Do you get them back into the chair? Do you actually do the cleaning? Do you actually, check them out? Do you actually do a follow-up with them? And, they're going to be like, no, okay, I get it. Right. No, you have the team skilled around you to be able to deliver at the highest value. What I am the best in the world at is right here, and then also negotiating on your behalf. My team is best at everything else. So as you're starting to do that, and if you follow CHSA, if you follow the listing presentation, Law 7 is all about the team. So it gives you the opportunity to touch on that, so you don't forget to have that conversation to set the stage that, hey, even if it's just you and your assistant, right? You're able to set that. So to me, that's super, super important that you, communicate that. DJ, I want to shift over to the other two buckets of tools and data. Mm-hmm. Let's touch on tools a little bit. You mentioned a couple that you guys are using or have used. What are some other tools to help with the efficiencies in, kind of the best practices here for our proactive outbound efforts?
Yeah. So personally, again, we use, Vulcan 7 is our data software for sale by owner and expired data that we personally just enjoy and have used for years. That gets automatically inputted into Mojo daily. And I use that to dial. And then we have, I think we're using Zapier as a link between Mojo and Follow Up Boss as our CRM currently, where say I have a great call with you and I put you in the hot bucket. As soon as I put you in there, you're automatically put into Follow-Up Boss. And then we have an email campaign that starts immediately. And our first thing, John describes our proven repeatable system, and the video that was designed as well by you guys is the first video we send. I think it's a great video. The 18% or more and what separates. I ask everyone to watch that video prior to me coming. And I've always gotten really good feedback. Well, yeah, it makes a lot more sense. We felt more comfortable. And then usually for credibility, we'll have, our Zillow team page, because that goes back to, I love what you said about we and our. Not only do I feel like they see it in a better light that we are all a larger team, but back again to a newer agent, it gives them the confidence to say, talk about our, it's all of the numbers are collective. Like, so hinge on that, when you don't have to feel like you're on this island, like we're all together. So also another big thing that we're having a lot of success, and this is something we should have done a long time ago, video texting has been big. Like for anyone we can't get on the phone, a very quick video text, whether it's an expired or a FSBO, and then regular texting, of course, as well. That's just from our phone. We've used BombBomb in the past a little bit. Probably should get back a little more to that on video email. Weekly newsletter for email, kind of a Ricky Carew thing, just something to the database weekly. But, tools were pretty straightforward. YLOPO, we do use that in conjunction with Follow-Up Boss as well. It has a bit of a retargeting aspect for our leads. It's starting to perform better, but overall for specific tools, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. You definitely want to create some efficiencies and have whatever tools there. And, if you're just starting out and, putting a lot of sweat equity, you're not able to write some check equity. And we'll get in this with data, and I believe in the guys over at RedX. We've known those guys for over a decade plus. They're always at the forefront. Curtis and Mark, they're always trying to improve. They listen to the client base. They're trying to do the best they have. And so, like, if you're just like, man, hey, just give me the lowest cost, just easiest go. It ties in with data. They also have a dialer.
Yep.
You can utilize. Is it the best dialer in the industry? Maybe not. Maybe so. It really just, having something within your current budget to be able to help you be more efficient. And that's really what you're looking for. You're looking for efficiencies. And so getting into to looking at that, Mojo, Vulcan 7, there's great tools out there. Having some type of CRM, I believe Follow-Up Boss is one of the best. And, if you're looking for a lead gen platform, there's all kinds of different ones out there. Your Boomtowns, your Commissions Incs, your YLOPOs. You just got to get really clear on what's the objective, what's the goal I'm trying to accomplish right now. Mm-hmm. And it's going to always evolve. And given where my stage of my business, I need, I'm in a point to where I need, lowest cost, easiest to implement, then, that's where I would look at what can, your budget allocation to help you solve, instead of going deep on these other tools that takes so long from a cash conversion cycle. And so look at the tools that can help me generate cash and get me to the closing table the fastest, make my cash register ring. So I want to, there's two things I want to hit before we wrap up. And one, I want to get into the data. I want to get into the lead sources. And so what, from a data standpoint, like, and maybe start lowest cost, easiest to implement, and kind of where we need to be looking from, hey, first, second, third, and, kind of gets a little bit higher ticket as you go up. But what are some of the data and lead gen sources that you guys are using, that you found success with, that, every agent needs to make sure that they have as part of their business strategy?
I'd say at the very beginning, like you said, when you don't have the capital, it would be like a RedX, like you just said, and just use Google Docs or Excel. Like at the beginning, that's all. Well, we didn't have anything else. Number two, I know Braden's having a lot of success with this, is just those top of funnel ads running. you still get a decent amount. I mean, you're getting leads. And to me, it's not a lead problem. It's a follow-up problem and a touch problem. So, if you call enough of those, and even if they're all top of funnel and you keep in touch and follow up, they're all eventually going to buy or sell or both. Yeah. So at the very early stages, that's pretty low cost. I mean, you're not paying much per lead because like we've talked a lot together, the realtor model, the Zillow model, like I really feel that they're all going toward now that 25-30% referral take, because when you think about it for them as a business model, probably makes more, they make more money. It's less, especially in a market now where things shift, people don't spend as much. Yeah. Like it's okay. We'll still give you great leads. You just have to pay us 30% on every close, where for a single agent, math's probably there. For any team, the math doesn't work. Like right. So for us, it's just like we talked, today on our call, I feel like as you grow and the capital is there, having ISAs or some form of an ISA to keep the consistency of the calls for those leads is huge, because we always said for every listing, we should be getting 2 to 3 buyers, and now with the market shifting, the poor buyers agents for the last couple of years that, it was tough, really tough. Now we're getting a lot of buyers under contract, right? So this shift, there's a lot of positive and opportunity in this. So again, I'd say if I was brand new, had no money right now, I'd throw it on a credit card, but it'd be a Redix or a Vulcan, an Excel. Worst case, I'd even use, a tablet at this point. Like if I didn't even have that, it'd be like just keeping track of those notes and the follow-up would be the very first thing I would do. And then some of the, again, the higher top of funnel type ads that just get you talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, man. And, Alex has you got to have a core 4, right, in your strategy for your business. I like to get to 6 to 7, right? What are those strategies to acquire the business? And, for you guys, it's definitely expireds, cancels, withdrawals, sell by owners. Mm-hmm. What else are some key, core strategies to make sure that we've got oil wells or pillars of opportunities constantly coming in?
So we're doing really well with our Sphere referral business, and that's having that Sphere program set up where, again, even if at the beginning it's a weekly newsletter, something they get consistently to your Sphere, have contests. Getting back in this market, do something fun once a month. Do a giveaway a Yeti cooler. We're doing this, we're doing that for your client base. Just something to keep them active. Matt used to do the market reports. Again, that goes back to you guys always saying, be the expert in your market. We got amazing feedback, really good feedback, because he became kind of the local news for everything real estate in our market. So that's something
non-negotiable. You have to do that. Exactly.
We're getting more buyer activity now from our YLOPO. So I'd say that's another bucket. And then again, our future, where we see our biggest goal is this: the larger the database you can have, you become your own Zillow. So sure. As you grow your own database and you have the tools and the people in place to cultivate more and more leads from there, I believe that's the future of the really successful team, so that we don't have to rely on the Zillow, the realtor, the pay big money for leads.
I agree, man. And, definitely as more listings come on, open houses, I think can be yes. great for you as well. Yep. Geo, I know you guys do some just circle prospecting, calling in the neighborhoods. So there's definitely a handful of strategies there that you need to evaluate and make sure that you get implemented into the business. You don't want to have your business all on one pillar. We need a handful. So DJ, as we wrap up here, man, what is the, I know you do a weekly training call. And I definitely want to throw that out there for everybody listening in as an opportunity to sharpen their sword, right? Sharpen that axe, and really continue to the commitment to grow their skill set. Talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and when it is, and then how they can get plugged in.
Yeah. So ironically, in 6 minutes, so Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern is when I do it. And I'm working hard. It started for now. It's just role play, just practice. I started beginning of the call, like just with help with the objections, what they're experiencing, kind of coach them up there, and then right into the role play. But I've been working hard on developing my own more or less coaching platform only for this specific thing.
Yeah.
With all I've been able to get over the years from so many people and kind of making it mine. So I'm excited. My goal is in the hopefully the next 30 days I can roll this out, but just much more laser focused on the objection piece, because that's the main thing that a lot struggle. So Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, I will get you the link that we can share for everybody, but we welcome everybody regardless of brokerage. It's just an opportunity to, sharpen the skills and get better together.
And, if they want to, miss the link or don't see it and they want to, go ahead and take action, then they can just hit you up on social media, just everywhere at DJ Fairley.
Exactly. Yep. I'm Facebook, Instagram. Exactly right.
Cool. Brother, I appreciate you definitely being a true expert mentor and pouring into the Honey Badger Nation. And, I think, everybody has to take a real hard look at these four key buckets of their effort, their skill, the tools, and the data to be, to really be able to thrive into the transitioning, shifting market. And for all of you guys listening in, make sure you guys give DJ lots of love, get plugged into his Wednesday calls at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Gold.